Hi, everybody. This is Bud Gibson. I'm the director of the Center for Digital Engagement at Eastern Michigan University. And I'm here with Sufian Qrunfleh, the interim department head of marketing at Eastern Michigan. And we are going to bring you today's session of the Digital Marketing Workshop, which is entitled Main Street Digital. We're going to go on for about 30 minutes here, or Sufian actually in his panel. I'm going to ask Sufian to introduce the panel in just a second. Sufian and his panel are going to discuss for about 30 minutes. During that time, please ask questions in the comments. We had quite a lively session with questions yesterday, and we look forward to that today. And so, Sufian, who have you got for us today?
Well, I'm excited. We got Jim Fausone from the partner at Fausone. We got Don Verbrigghe, CEO and founder of Jottful. And we got Martin Smith, the CEO of Overflow Marketing Solution. Thank you guys very much for being here.
All right, well, I'll let you take it away with them.
Absolutely. Let me start with asking Jim and asking you all to give us an introduction about yourself. Tell us how did the company started, and give us some background about yourself.
Sure. Thanks, Sufian. I'm pleased to be here again with the Center for Digital Engagement. I'm a lawyer, practicing lawyer. My partner, Paul Bohn, and I started Fausone Bohn about 25 years ago. And probably at least 15 years ago, we decided we needed to get into digital marketing, seeing that was a new trend 15 or 20 years ago. And we've been heavily engaged in digital marketing ever since. Our law firm, which has about 40 employees at Fausone Bohn, we do a lot of business work, municipal litigation, family, divorce, so kind of a wide practice area. But one of the things that we have, which is very niche-y, is veterans disability work around the country. My wife's retired Air Force Brigadier General and a nurse. I served. So 15 or more years ago, we started helping veterans get their VA disability benefits. And we'll talk some more about that later. But the point of that really is the niche. It's a very narrow area. It's a national in scope area. And it really lends itself to digital marketing. So we've made every mistake there is to make. I'm the bad business owner on this panel. We have a couple of experts, but I'm the business owner who's tried a bunch of stuff that's worked and tried a bunch of stuff that didn't work because we're lawyers. What do we know? So we've really worked with folks like Bud Gibson and consultants over time to find something that works, and recently this year hired our first in-house digital marketing assistant. So we'll talk about that a little bit too. But that's who I am, and that's the businesses that my partner Paul Bohn and I have operated together for about 25 years now.
Great. Don, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how the idea of the company started?
Thanks. By the way, I have a cat here who I bribed with food before the panel, but he's going to keep showing up.
It adds some value to us.
Yeah, exactly. So I started my career as a graphic designer and a marketer. And my mother actually owns a bridal shop in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I think the Upper Peninsula's largest bridal shop, if anyone's in the market for bridal dresses. And over the years, because I have this design and marketing background, she has, of course, had me build and take care of her website. And life got busier for me, and I just thought, this is crazy. Why is it that a small business owner is unable to build her own website or take care of her own website? Why does she need me, her daughter, unpaid, doing this for her? And I just started to realize that there were tons of business owners for whom this was a real problem. There were really, before the company that I founded, before Jottful, there were really only two ways to get a website. One is that you could hire an agency to build it for you. But most of our customers tell us that they get quoted $5,000 or more for this. So this is just completely outside most of their budgets. So that's why my mother never did that, right? The alternative is that they could try to build their own website, which my mother did try at some point, using some do-it-yourself software. But what happens is oftentimes they'll start the trial and they'll get really frustrated because they realize they don't have that sort of combination of digital marketing skills, design skills, technical skills, and they sure don't have the time to actually build this website themselves when, my mother's job is selling bridal gowns. It's not digital marketing. So that's why I founded Jottful, was really to help all of those companies. So our customers tend to be 5 employees or fewer. Very many of them are self-employed. And the two options that are out there today just weren't solving their needs. So Jottful is what we call a made together website. So we take the content from the business owner and we use it to actually build the website for them. And then we handle all of the technical stuff for them so they don't have to worry about those things, but they have the ability to go in and make all the simple changes themselves, like changing their hours of operation, adding and removing employees and stuff like that. And we do it really affordably at $59 a month. So I think today I'll be talking a lot about the kinds of things that our customers are doing from a digital marketing perspective, because it's a little bit different from us, as we're like a little bit more, of a true digital marketing business.
Great to have you here. Martin Smith?
Yeah, so
yeah.
I have so much in common with both of the other panelists here. I kind of fit in the middle. I am a non-practicing attorney. So, Jim, you are a great business owner and that you are actually practicing law. And I'll tell you that a whole bunch of stuff that I do doesn't work as much as the things that do work. It's just how, if you can stick in long enough to find the things that do work, that's really the key. And then Dawn, we are the agency that sends people the $5,000 website contracts. So that's us. But I very much appreciate Dawn's services, because if you're a business starting out, you probably don't need that, right? So when we're sending those contracts, and I didn't even say what my company is. It's Overflow Marketing Solutions. It's a digital marketing agency, and we partner with companies to help them fill in the gaps with what they need to be able to drive sales and leads for their businesses. So the reason we would be sending those higher dollar amount contracts is because we have to build very specific things that are going to help them scale up. So if you're just getting started and you need more of a site for just your customers to come see what you're all about, a representation of your business, and be able to make some simple updates, then you should go to Dawn, right? You don't need to go right out of the gate and invest in a huge expensive solution and then find out half the things you don't need down the road. But why people hire us is because they want us to help them figure out what it is that they do need to help them get from where they are to where they're trying to go. So a quick aside in terms of how I got started in this business and what our company is all about. I got started as a DJ. And I still am a DJ today. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But I got started as a DJ and I was promoting events locally. And then all of the hand-to-hand flyering and promotions you used to do for events turned into social media marketing. And then you can just kind of imagine that down the road that became digital marketing and growth marketing. And so then that brings us to where we are today.
Wow, that's great. Great to hear. So we got a DJ, we got a lawyer, we got an entrepreneur, designer. So this is great panelists. Let me go back to Jim, please. You said you started 15 years ago with going with the digital marketing. So my question to you is, how did you decide, or when did you know was the right time for you to go to the digital marketing?
Really, that was an easy decision for us at Legal Help for Veterans, which was that niche national part of the law practice where we were trying to reach people all around the country. And we didn't have enough budget to be on radio or TV or print ads. Instead, we're really attracted to the focus that you get out of digital marketing, the ability to control the spend. We actually started doing pay-per-click on Yahoo before Google ate the world. Now all of our spend's on Google pay-per-click. But that ability to really control the budget and start small and try a few things and convince yourself or convince your partners that this is going to work and you should spend the money here was how we got started, Sufian. And it was an incremental decision that has grown over time as its proof of concept has developed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to just remind the audience, please put your question on the Facebook Live, and we will get to those later. So, Don, tell us, how did you decide to make this digital transmission?
Yeah.
I know your company is built on that, but did any certain situation force you, or maybe led you to do that way?
Yeah, something that's really interesting is that we are doing a lot more digital marketing now post-COVID than we were pre-COVID. And the biggest reason for this is because our customers are now online more than they used to be. And a great example of this is that prior to COVID, one of the biggest challenges we faced, and we would sit down and talk about this all the time, but it was one of the biggest challenges in our sales process, was that part of our process is that we make a free homepage design or a free sample website for our customers. If they like it, they can choose to work with us.
Sure.
And when we would show them this, we would do it over a screen share, right? Only most of our customers had never done video conferencing before. And so they had no idea. Some of them even dropped out and said, I don't have an iPhone. I can't possibly see what you're trying to show me, right? This was a really big challenge. Our customers have become so much more sophisticated about digital just since April. Not only do they all use Zoom, in fact, they tell us now, can you send me a Zoom link, right? They're all pros all of a sudden. And they're also just hanging out more online than they used to. So we used to rely a lot on in-person events for lead generation. Those events have gone digital now, and our customers are just comfortable with them in a way that they never were before April. So it's been a really just accelerated, fascinating transition.
Well, that is great to hear. That is great to hear. Martin, I know you said you're a DJ, and so how was that transition was for you from the traditional Main Street to the more digitally? How was that? You're muted, Martin. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry about that.
Yes,
I was trying to keep the background noise out and then forgot about that.
We're good.
But yes, that transition, it was actually amazing. For me, that transition going from Main Street, almost literally, I would DJ right off of Main Street. I don't do it that often, but I would DJ right off of Main Street in Ann Arbor. And now I'm doing online DJing, and it's also tied in with Overflow Marketing, because we're doing brand launches for corporations where our team is creating digital graphics and doing marketing and promotions and doing outreach to promote online brand launches, where I actually DJ and host those from the studio that I have here in my house. So, but very similar to what Dawn said, I've seen our clients become much more sophisticated and the audience much more sophisticated and happy using tools like Zoom and hopping on YouTube, and everybody's much more comfortable there. So it really opens up an opportunity. I've also seen that with our clients specifically. It used to be like pulling teeth often to get our clients to record short videos to promote their businesses. But now, because everybody's used to sitting in front of a camera, they're much more comfortable just jumping on for 2 minutes, saying something about their business that we can then turn into an ad and promote their business online. So I've seen both personally, I can do much more DJing when I go into my basement for an hour or two than I would ever do if I had to travel around and do it. But then also for our clients, we're seeing everybody embracing digital technology, and it's a lot easier to reach their audience. It's a lot easier for them as business owners, and it's great all around. So there is lemonade to be had with the lemons that we've had from COVID-19.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me go back to Jim. You talked about some of those obstacles and hurdles that you had to overcome while you're making this transition. Can you share with us a few of those?
Sure. You can begin digital marketing without any expertise, because you can go to YouTube and find a video, or Google has all kinds of educational information on how to do pay-per-click campaigns.
Sure.
And somebody who thinks they, smarter than the average bear, and heck, I got an engineering degree, I can figure this out. For many years, I tried to do it myself, and I did it, but I always knew I wasn't doing it well. And I think one of the obstacles is overcoming in your own mind that this is a paid service that has a good ROI, a good return on investment. And you have to get to the point where you're comfortable with that. And then, to tell you the truth, from a business owner standpoint, and I'm in the business, right, of being a service provider to others. But here I'm buying a service from somebody, and you have to get comfortable in your own mind that the person you're picking to, or the company you're picking to be your consultant, who's going to design this or do your pay-per-click advertising, that you relate to, that connects with you, that understands. In our instance, we have this very narrow niche of veterans disability work, and it's not like buying shoes. You don't click on it and the order shows up. You click on it, it's a contact form, we gather information, and it may take 5 years before we get paid off on that customer, or that what we call clients, right?
Right.
So it's a much different process. So finding a consultant who understands that and works with you with those things in mind was challenging, and I think difficult for us. We've gone through a number of folks, some local, some regional or national. We actually used an international entity at one point, and now do enough of it and are confident enough in its ROI that we have hired somebody in-house, actually a graduate out of Bud's program. I won't give Andrew's last name because I don't want you guys to steal him, but we're confident enough about what we're doing. And the international company we were using pre-COVID, we fired them right at COVID. We were having a $40 a click conversion rate, $40 conversion rate. And since now in October, we've driven that down to $8 a conversion, because we've got somebody who understands what we're trying to do and is committed to doing it. So I think the transition is hard, Sufian, because you've got to go through all those stages to get to where we couldn't have got there in one jump. You have to, it's one step at a time. You try this, it works for a while, and then you got to switch people because they've stopped paying attention to you. You know, that whole thing that we're all kind of used to. But in the end, it's very clear that digital marketing has the ROI that you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great to hear. What about you, Dawn?
Yeah, so I agree with pretty much everything he just said. I think one of the biggest challenges for entrepreneurs and for micro business owners is that it's just so overwhelming and intimidating, right? There are so many different platforms. So you have to understand the audience that's on those platforms and try and figure out whether or not your target market is on those platforms. And if so, how do you message appropriately for that platform? On top of that, the algorithms on the platforms change all the time, right? So just when you think you've got something figured out, it changes, and sort of the ground moves beneath you. And then there's all of this language that's really difficult, right? Okay, so maybe if you can figure out what a click-through rate and a CPC is, right, and all of this, but how do you benchmark that? What's actually good, right? It's really hard to understand if what you're seeing is decent. And then it's hard to evaluate people to, as he was just saying, like take over as service providers if you don't understand this stuff. And if you're sitting in an interview with them and they're speaking a completely different language with you, and particularly because sometimes these service providers, let's be honest, will use that language to obscure meaning in order to make you think that it's really hard and just give it to them and they're gonna solve the problem for you. And the truth is there is just no one shot solution. It is absolutely a process of learning what offer works, what channel works, right? And then how can you optimize for that? So I think that it absolutely is a process, and this idea that you're just going to hand it over to a service provider and they're going to solve it for you is not going to happen.
Right. Excellent. What about you, Martin?
Yes, I mean, I could add a little bit to what Dawn said. I completely agree across the board. What I often see is that companies have an idea that, well, first of all, we want to start out and we don't want to jump right into paid marketing, right? We would like to do this all ourselves, and we want to build it up to a certain point that we're able to do it and not do any paid marketing. And then we'll jump into paid marketing once we know. But paid marketing is often one of the best ways to test with the least resistance, because you can get in front of thousands of people tomorrow and find out, are they going to take this action that I want them to take? Are they going to buy this? Are they going to click this thing? Do they want to download this? So rather than you doing all of the groundwork and the grunt work, I think what's most important is for you to have a foundation, at least to know if you're trying to sell something, what does it cost you to sell it now? If you at least know that. And then also, like Jim said, they tried and tested out the marketing themselves for just a little bit, or maybe for longer than they wanted to, but they at least tried it out to say, can we make this work on our own, and how much is it costing to make it work on our own? So then once they were working with other agencies, they had a barometer on whether to say, is this working or not? Because it was like, wait a minute, are they doing it at a reasonable amount or no? If you just go to listen to someone else, you won't have that information. So you should at least be able to tell, where is my starting point? Where's a good place to know, is this working or not? And then you can make a determination from there on whether or not it's successful.
This is great to hear. Great to hear. Reminding the audience about, writing on Facebook the questions, another 10-15 minutes, and we'll go back to those questions from the audience. I want to talk a little bit about the impact of Covet. Yesterday, we heard hopefully great news about some vaccine coming out. We hope this thing will get over with soon. Now, I want to talk about the impact of Covet for your business. How has that affected you, Jim?
So it's very interesting, because when it started, we saw work drop because everybody was in a panic. But the work has all come back. Unfortunately, in my business, I sell time, so I lost that time. It's not like they can order more widgets and I just run Saturday and Sunday to make widgets.
Correct.
But it's interesting that the work has come back. Going into the end of the year, we see kind of a real push. But I want to pick up on what both Dawn and Martin said in this.
Sure.
What we have seen is people more receptive to virtual meetings. I'm unfortunately on virtual meetings all day long. You can have more of them because there's no driving, there's no chit chat, there's no going out for lunch. So it really has advanced the acceptance of digital in the business marketplace. And that's been sort of interesting. Now, there's all kinds of challenges with working from home and access to all the equipment that you need to do that, and high-speed printers in my business and that sort of thing. But COVID has helped people get more tuned in to digital, and actually we increased our marketing going into digital as it developed because we felt that business was down, but this was the time to capture that future business, and so being creative, doing things we hadn't done before, I think, has helped us go through this period of COVID.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you think, I'll go back to you on that. Nobody expected this, of course. Having the infrastructure or having already somebody help you with the digital marketing, do you think that gave you kind of an edge over others, maybe, in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. It also allowed us to be, and this is sort of would be my advice to those agencies out there working in this space, having somebody in the house allowed us to be more creative. So you need when things are really tough, you need your consultant to be more creative. Right. To say, okay, we can't be doing what we've been doing because the times have changed. So what do we do different under these circumstances? And I never thought I'd be doing 30-second video ads or 3-minute ones because we use all the platforms. But 30-second videos, man, that's something that people have just really glommed onto in the last 6 months, in part because they're home doing it on their phone. So it has helped, and being creative and nimble and reactive is necessary.
Excellent, excellent. Dawn, how about the impact of COVID on your business?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the impact on our customers' business and kind of just generally what we're seeing in the market within the market of micro businesses. Sure. We saw immediately just an adoption of online marketing, right? So many people who previously thought they didn't need a website or could just get by with Facebook, all of a sudden scrambled, right? And got that in place. And then we saw people leveling up. All right, I have this website, but I'm not transacting on it at all. How can I begin to add commerce to this website?
Sure.
And now what we're starting to see, which is mind-blowing to me, is that a lot of business owners just kind of hope that this would go away. and kind of delayed actually doing anything. And now that the summer is over, and especially as fewer people are going to be outside, and things are going to get a little bit tougher here in the winter, we're seeing another rush. So it's kind of like a second rush of people who I don't know, maybe they were in denial and they were just hoping this vaccine would come sooner, but we are seeing this second rush now. And so one of the greatest things I've seen, and sort of speaking to Jim's point about creativity, is just the sheer number of creative things that our customers are doing. One of my favorite pivots I've seen is one of our customers owns a chicken farm, and they used to sell chicken to restaurants. Well, obviously that supply chain, was disrupted as a result of COVID. And so they realized that not only was this supply chain disrupted and they needed to come up with a second plan, but also bone broth is really good for the immune system. So they began selling chicken bone broth, and they launched a second website, just spun it up in like a week, right? That's specifically for selling the chicken bone broth, and they're doing quite well. And I think that, this creativity has just been so exciting.
Talk about a positive impact of Covet.
Yeah.
Martin, you give us hope. You know why? Because DJ can be done online. So that is something amazing. Tell us about the impact of Covet on your business.
So very similar to what Dawn mentioned. Excuse me. So Overflow Marketing, we saw a little bit of a lull for just a bit, and that was mainly in our pipeline of leads of new customers that were almost just about to come on board, and then everything paused for a good 2-3 months. And so at that point, I won't say I started to panic, because going into COVID, when I saw things start to happen and I saw kind of a possible recession coming around, I was like, I'm not going to do what I did the last time. And so the last recession we had, I was kind of like holding on for dear life, like, please just let us stay alive as a company. This time around, I tried to go into it with a different mindset. And there was a quote, I've seen it quoted to Warren Buffett, and other people. So I don't know who actually said it, but it was about a recession. And the answer was, well, what are you going to do about the recession? And then the answer was, well, we just decided not to participate. So for me, that's what I've gone into it with, the mindset of how do we not participate in any sort of recession that's going on? So the question I had to ask myself was, what's in this for me? Right. And so, and not just me, but Overflow as a company, what's in this for us? Right. And I think my clients are having to ask themselves that same question and be creative about it. But so that's how DJing came around. I was like, well, if people seem to enjoy DJing, it's lifting spirits, then how can we grow this and attach this to what we're already doing? And it created a whole new opportunity. And now we're working with companies like Cisco, Salesforce, Ann Arbor's own Duo Security. And so doing enterprise level brand launches. And so that wouldn't have happened if we weren't looking down that lens, because for me, DJing had become just a hobby. So, but I know Bud always counts on me for a laugh here or there. So it's harder to get that in virtually. That's what I'm noticing. I can't throw my jokes in here, but I actually had a client text me and say, why are you throwing me under the bus about making videos now that I'm finally making videos? But there's actually at least 4 of our clients that I'm thinking of that had a hard time making videos until COVID-19 happened. So shouts out to Brendan, though, for the text message. I appreciate you.
Great mindset, man. Great mindset. I think we have maybe a room for one more question. I want you to wear a hat for trying to predict what the future is going to be. So what do you think is going to happen in 2021? And your plans, what is your plans for your business? So Jim, I mean.
So that's every business owner has to be schizophrenic, I tell my clients. One side of your brain is saying, this is the best opportunity ever. We're going to have wonderful things. The other side of your brain is saying, oh my God, we're going to fail. Just hang on for dear life. We're going to go bankrupt. Unfortunately, for most entrepreneurs, those occur both at the same time at 2 a.m. in the morning. So I'm going to use the optimistic side of my brain and say I think 2021 is going to work out really well for everybody. I think this year has made us focus more on our businesses, create some efficiencies, try new things, be more creative. I think all of that's going to pay off in the long run. If you've been saying, well, I'm going to avoid it because maybe it's going to go away, I think you've got a problem. Now's the time to really say, how am I going to invest in my business in the digital space that's going to propel me into 2021, not have me tread water.
Don, what is your plans and what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm very bullish on 2021. Let's face it, it can't be worse than 2020. I think that's impossible. I'm very excited for 2021, especially for our business, especially for our customers and the kinds of things that they do. To Jim's point about sort of entrepreneurs always up at 2 a.m. with those kinds of two conflicting thoughts in their mind, that's spot on. And I think that when COVID first started, or when anything like this happens, we have a tendency to go a little bit into panic mode first, right? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I will tell you that I was up multiple nights in a row just spreadsheeting. I don't know if that's a verb, but that's what I did. I spreadsheeted every night for multiple nights, and I just ran scenarios, right? And I said, okay, these are the 3 scenarios I have. It could go this way, or this way, and I'm just going to, plan for the worst and hope for the best, and put some things in place that we're investing to try and get that best possible outcome. And, I think when as an entrepreneur, you're sort of working from a position of strength as opposed to a position of fear, you're just going to be more successful and you're going to attract people to you. So for me, 2021 is all about coming from that position of strength and hope and optimism and just attracting the right people.
Excellent. Martin, your plans and what do you think is going to happen?
So for 2021, I think we're going to see some things shift back to what they were, but we also are embracing some new things that aren't going to go away. I think we're going to continue to see more of these virtual types of events that will continue. We're going to see more working from home. Even though people may go back to offices, some companies will downsize. So I think being smart about which pieces of 2020 do we want to keep and which pieces do we want to throw away is going to be a smart idea moving forward. And I also just would like to see businesses try to stay lean as we go into, they may be forced to stay lean as we head into 2021. But if you can say, all right, what's actually working and can we double down on that and maybe not throw so many things at the wall until we're a little bit more certain about where our footing is and make sure that we can, because we really don't know what's going to happen, right? Absolutely. But let's make sure that we can have a solid foundation and withstand whatever is coming, whether that's digital, online, or offline. I think that's the best way to approach it.
Excellent. Words of wisdom from the expert in the area. Bud, do you want to open up the room for the questions from the audience?
Oh, yeah, sure. And as it turns out, we have a lot of great questions. And, I will, since Martin brought up Brendan, texting him, it turns out Brendan has been active in the comments too. And so I'm going to throw up, Brendan said of Martin, he's done a great job here at Help Financial Corporation. And so just wanted to make you aware that it's not just text messages, but it's public support. And, Martin, feel free at this stage to maybe just tell us a little bit what you did there. And we've got plenty of other questions too.
So tell us what we did with Help Financial. So since Brendan's putting it all out there, I guess it's public information. But Help Financial, they work with hospitals and providing programs to help patients pay for their hospital bills. So rather than having a bill collector knocking down your door, being somebody you never want to deal with, Help Financial provides an amazing service that helps both the hospitals and the patients do that, have that process happen in a very kind of seamless and in a way that's productive for everybody involved and makes everyone happy. But one of the main things we're working on for them is a LinkedIn outreach campaign to put Help Financial in touch with decision makers at hospitals. So that's a very digitally driven process. And what Brendan was talking about is, like, I was consulting and pushing them to create more videos and have a more personal method of outreach, because their business is really driven by person-to-person relationships. A lot will happen at trade shows and meeting people face-to-face, and the closest way to get to that online would be by creating videos that really have the personality infused, so it's not just a cold message that's going out in a text message or a LinkedIn message or an email message, but I can actually see your face and know you as a person. So I suggest that for other companies as well.
Absolutely. I was going to say, if you guys are listening, there you go. What else do we have, Bud, for the questions?
Okay, great. Well, we also have, and I'm just going to throw this up because I enjoy doing this sort of thing. We have Chad Wiebeck, who was our first executive in residence back when we launched the Center for Digital Engagement. And at that point in time, he was director of social media for the Pure Michigan campaign, the very first one. And he's saying great discussion. So it's always great. He doesn't have a question, but it's always great to reconnect with old friends via various media. And, much as you have been describing, our social interactions, even at the Center for Digital Engagement, have been curtailed somewhat. It used to be I'd just pop over and say hi to Chad from my office at the College of Business. Well, I haven't been there in a while, and I'm not sure if Chad has been working from home or not. So always great to reconnect. But I have a question here, and it's from Amy Mitchell, and I think it's coming back from earlier in the conversation, but I think it's a very good point. She starts off with the quote, "Google ate the world. How true?" And then she comes back in, and there was some discussion of this, but I think it might not be bad to revisit. How do you determine a reasonable budget per month with Google? It seems their pricing is somewhat is some covert scale that you never really know what you are getting. So I think this is speaking to the uncertainty that you all referenced. And I get this question a lot. Okay, so what budget should I use? How should I proceed ahead? I think it might be good to kind of come back and, give some practical tips there.
Go ahead, Martin. I'll jump in afterwards.
Agreed.
Okay. So Google's process is very much an auction, right? So the amount that you're paying for those ads is going to be largely based on what other people are going to be willing to pay to show in that same position. And I'll also say that your click-through rate has a very strong, it has a lot to do with how much you're going to pay as well. So the more enticing you can make that ad that you're putting out there, the lower that you're going to pay per click. But this comes back to the point that I was making earlier about you knowing a rough idea of what it's going to cost you to bring in a new customer or a prospect, right? A new lead. How much should it cost? How much does it cost you offline to do that? And once you can figure that out, then you can take that and extrapolate it into, well, how much can I afford to spend online? And if you know that if you can't spend more than $20 to bring in a new customer, then that gives you a barometer for what you were willing to spend online, right? And so then if you say, okay, I now want 10 new customers, then $200 should be your budget. If you know that you're going over that, you're spending too much money, it's not working for you. So either you need to find someone who can help you optimize that and bring down those costs, or maybe that channel is just not a good fit for your business.
And this is part of the services you provide. Am I correct, Martin? Right?
Yes, definitely. The consulting and then the operations of it as well.
Don, go ahead.
So all of that, spot on, excellent advice. I think that, the key is knowing what your target customer acquisition cost is and then planning from there. A couple of strategic things that I know that we do at Jottful that might be helpful maybe for somebody out there. So we know that for every customer we get, they usually refer us out and we get another customer. So we know that for every customer we get one customer for effectively free from a marketing perspective, which means that we take our target customer acquisition cost and we're willing to double it on marketing because we know we're going to average out to meet the cost that we need, right? So that's the first thing we do strategically. Whenever we fire up a new Google campaign, we start with a pretty low budget on a daily basis, just so that we can test and optimize, because yes, that click-through rate is really important, right? We want to see if the ads are resonating. We want to see if we have the right market. And then if we do, we turn it up quickly. And the reason why we do that is because we want to get to some statistical significance, right? We want to make sure, okay, we can now estimate what the whole funnel is going to look like based on the conversion rates from these ads. And then we dial it back to what we want our daily budget to be. So it's kind of a little process in the beginning. And I think one of the biggest challenges with digital marketing is letting it run long enough to get some statistical significance, because there's a desire to want to refresh the screen like every hour and see how your ads are doing.
And I would add, as the business owner, if I could, Sufian, that if you're the business owner, don't feel pressure about what your budget is. Just pick a number you're comfortable with, gather enough data. It'll either prove to you that this makes sense and you'll start increasing your budget, or you'll change maybe where you're at or what platform you're on. Some things are better for Facebook, some things are better for Google. We use YouTube a lot. So, there's all kinds of different platforms that you can use. So I think in the beginning, you particularly feel like, well, these two brilliant people won't even talk to me if my budget's only $250 a month or $500 a month, and you feel this pressure of, well, I want to be in the big leagues. Don't worry about that.
Right.
You'll figure out, and in my instance, because I'm getting a client who's buying a service down the road, I get paid. You have to figure out what every one of those customers or clients is worth, and when they pay off. So if it's I'm buying something and I'm shipping it tomorrow, it's one thing. And so my profitability on that is different than if I'm waiting a year before they come back and buy. So all that goes into what your budget should be. But start off small, but give it enough time to get your data together, because that's what's going to convince you.
Now, just wanted to highlight one thing. Both Jim and Dawn touched on this, but this is kind of a little secret insider tip. You do want to start small, especially on Google, with your budget. Now, Facebook is a little bit more friendly in that they want to help you optimize your spend. Google wants to take everybody's money, right? So if you're a large company or a small company, they want your money, right? So if you go in with a very small budget, you're more likely to find people that will convert for lower dollar amounts, and then you only scale it up once you know that that low amount is converting. If you go in with a huge budget right out of the gate, they're going to start looking for just anybody, and your average conversion is going to be much higher. You'll end up spending more overall. So you actually do want to start small. It's a great way to go about starting.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. Bud, do you have?
Oh yeah, we have lots of questions, and so which is what I was hoping would happen with this panel, because the idea of this panel is concrete advice from people in the trenches who are making it work in their small businesses. So I'm going to, however, tip the scales to a student of mine right now in class, Coco. Coco says, great discussion. How do you encourage small business owners that are apprehensive of changing into utilizing more digital marketing than just organic, social, and basic e-commerce? And I happen to know that Coco is the voice of experience here. She's brought up that very issue to me in some of our offline discussions. So I'll let the panel have at it.
Great question, actually. So
I think it's through conversation. I think it's through education. It may be through the Chamber of Commerce. It may be from other business owners that they know and they trust, who have heard, oh yeah, this worked for me. It may be starting part-time and moving to full-time efforts. So I don't think there's a magic bullet that answers it for all small businesses. I think it's across all those things in my experience.
Dawn?
It sounds like maybe you're working with a client or a company and you're trying to convince them to invest in some paid digital advertising. That's what I'm understanding. If that's the case, then I would recommend probably having them start with kind of a low budget, but a specific period of time over which you're actually going to test it, because you're not going to see results right away. So you definitely need to commit to it for, let's say, I don't know, maybe Martin can speak to how long you should commit to it, but for some months, and test it and look at it at the end of that time, and just think of it as money that you're using for testing and for experimentation.
Yeah, I generally tend to think that about 3 months at least you need to invest, or expect to invest for about 3 months before you even see the positive signs that you want to see to know, is this working for our company? But I would say, I mean, I'm a very numbers driven person. So I always think back to the way that you convince somebody to go from organic to investing in paid is showing them that, okay, great, you brought in this customer and now you have this person and you spent this much to get them and they're bringing in this much for you. So would you like to have 10 more of those? Would you like to have 100 more of those? And digital allows you to do that. You don't really have the control over organic methods as much to scale them up. So if you're really looking for more growth, then you probably should be spending some money to find more people like those ones that you're bringing in organically.
Yeah, I think a great point there is also that you can use some paid advertising to remarket to the people, that the traffic that you're already driving through organic. So that might be a first step before you start doing cold traffic on Google or whatever, is to just try and remarket to the people who are already coming to your website and see if you can convert them.
Great advice. Great advice. I think we still have some time for a few questions, Bud.
Oh, yeah. So we have a new question from Todd Gertis, friend of the Center for Digital Engagement, longtime entrepreneur, recently was at Spark East in Ypsilanti and has moved on from that role, but of course asks a question, and I think this one is directed to you, Jim, but I think everybody could answer this, and it goes way back to the beginning of the conversation. And so what were some of the questions you asked the potential providers, Jim, to make your decision on the provider you selected to reduce your costs and get better service? So, I think the central question is, gee, how do you vet these providers? Okay, because people, I think, worry about getting taken for a ride.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I wish I wrote an article on that now that I'm thinking of that. So maybe I'll do that. You obviously, as I said, it has to be somebody you're comfortable with. So you have to understand what do they know about your industry? What do they know about you specifically? Have they done those potential providers can do a lot of background information on your website and what works and what doesn't work and where you're spending and where you show up against competitors. And if they haven't done all that, they're not all that interested in you. Understanding maybe the size of their average customer. What I've found over time is that you kind of can get, first year might be great service, and then you keep slowing down in the level of service because you're no longer adding or big enough, or they've added more folks. So I think understanding sort of that, how do I get out? What is there any contract? Usually there isn't anything too long. Can I get out of this thing that's not working? The other thing that I'm in, and I think you have to in the digital area be involved in, is the numbers. Martin said he's a numbers guy. That's what digital gives you, is data. But if the consultant that you're talking to says, well, every quarter or twice a year we'll send you no. You want to know when the information's coming to you as the customer. And indeed, what I've found, unfortunately, is that maybe the first month or two they're good at it. By month 4, you're having to call them up and say, where's the report? By month 6, you're not even getting a return, and that's the time to switch on people. But I think those are the sort of the beginning questions: understanding the industry, understanding where you're going to fit into the customer scheme of things, what the reporting is going to look like, what their commitments are going to be, how you can get out of it if it's not working.
Excellent.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Generally speaking, anytime you can align your service provider's incentives to your own, that's great. Good luck getting that in some of these contracts, because typically if it's, for example, SEO, you're going to be paying maybe a one-time sort of initial foundational basics fee, right? Like getting everything just kind of tricked out from an SEO perspective in the first place, and then maybe a monthly retainer after that for blog post writing and constant optimization. On the paid side, you're usually paying a percentage of what you're spending, which is exactly why, to Jim's point, you'll hear a lot from them in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they kind of go away because from their perspective, they're still taking, a certain percentage of whatever it is that you spend. So it's really on you as the person who hired them to constantly go back to them and say, hey, I want to see all the experiments that you've been running here, right? What new creative are you testing? What offers are you testing? What channels are you testing? I want evidence that you're continuing to work for me and not just taking that percentage of spend every month.
Right. Kind of like performance evaluation during the process. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Martin.
On that note, I am not a huge fan of percentage of spend contracts, just for that very reason. I mean, that actually incentivizes the agency to spend more because they get paid more based on spending more rather than spending less. So, but this is the place where I kind of fall back from numbers, right? I think looking at is that service provider speaking about goals or your goals? When they're asking you questions, are they asking you about where do you want to be in this amount of time? Are they looking forward to make sure that they're going to put pieces in place to get you where you're trying to go? Or are they just like doing the, what is it called, dog and pony show and trying to show you lots of things that just wow you and then get you on board? But do you see yourself getting to where you're trying to go with this company? I think that's one of the biggest things to focus on, because if they're not asking you those questions, then they're not thinking about it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, it turns out this is not a follow-up question. It came much earlier, but it's, I think, not a bad question at all in this context. And this is from Vicky Math, who it turns out, I've discovered by reading the comments here, is actually a graduate student in education at Eastern Michigan. And she's asking, is there an intersection between social justice and digital marketing companies? And I think this comes back to the point of alignment of goals. And I think it's, what do we mean by alignment of goals? Which goals have to be aligned, okay? And so Vicky's kind of coming, I want people who are kind of aligned with me philosophically. Not sure that that's entirely necessary, and would love to hear your opinions on it. And how do folks working to make a change, in my case, education, find companies that have similar goals? Okay, so I'm kind of working in a cause, and I want to find people who I think are at least not opposed to my cause, okay, to try and work with. And so how do I do that? And I'll throw that open to you guys.
I would say, I know internally at Overflow, we don't work with any company that we don't stand behind what it is that they sell and what it is that they do. So that's just not every agency is going to feel that way, but we're like personally invested very much in clients. So if we have to get up and work and do work on your behalf and we're just like, I really hate pushing this stuff, that's just not a good place to be. But I would say the way that you can see if there is alignment, if you're looking for a very strong alignment, if that company, whoever it is posting on social media, are they ever referencing what it is that your interests are? Do they ever, so actions speak louder than words. Are they doing things, or are they posting things, or are they vocal about those things that you care about? And if they are, then that's a great sign.
I would also say that we've bumped into folks who are in alignment with us on issues based on areas where they volunteer, where they've supported an organization that we're supporting. This has been from service dogs for veterans to homeless organizations for veterans. So I think you can find alignment sometimes by looking at around it, who's volunteering doing the same things that you're doing. Now, Dawn, it'd be good for cats, but I don't think she's in alignment with dogs.
I have nothing against dogs. I know one thing we do, I'm a member of something called Founders for Change. Mm-hmm. And this is entrepreneurs who have committed to having diverse investor bases boards of directors and management teams, right? And you sign a, I don't know what it is, like a petition or whatever, and you say that like I'm for Founders for Change. What that actually does is it puts me in a really great position. I just blame it on Founders for Change. Look, I'm a member of Founders for Change. So I just need to know, for example, of your limited partners, how many are women? And I just come right out and ask it and say, I've made this commitment to Founders for Change. So this is a question I need to ask you during this process.
Great. Do you think we have but room for one more question?
Yeah, I think we do. I've appreciated this part of the conversation, and Vicky sent in a nice thank you. So I have one thing from Nancy Miller Rojas Fairley, and so I'll pop it up here. And my company's customers are educators, okay? So they are inundated with emails from students, parents, etc. So I think she's thinking one of the main ways she gets through to people is via email, but their emails are clogged. And I know for sure mine is. Like I have an email from Martin from 3 weeks ago that I've been meaning to respond to. And I keep on saying, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I've not forgotten you, Martin, but, just haven't gotten back to him. And so she says, how can my company reach my customers when they're already so inundated? I think that's actually a great question given everything you guys have brought up so far. So look forward to hearing the answer.
I'll jump in and I'll just say that there are additional channels that are now available, and a lot of them may still push you back to email. Email is still one of the most productive channels just because there's generally nobody stopping you from reaching your people that you send email to other than, spam filters. But a lot of I'll say like Facebook Messenger now has recently added Instagram to the mix. That's just coming into the fold. So now through Facebook Messenger, you'll be able to reach people on WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, and also Instagram. And there is a service called ManyChat that allows you to manage that messenger process. ManyChat also allows you to add in text messaging and email. So you can have all of those different communication methods all in one platform where you go to one kind of inbox and you can manage all of those tools. So the way that you use that, of course, you can't send a full email as a text message, but if you're not able to reach somebody and you saw they didn't open your last email, then now you can send them a text message and then refer back to a web page, a landing page, or something like that you push them to. So you kind of have to start thinking about what are all of the different opportunities that I have and how can I use this without annoying people. But if it's something that's very important and you think they're going to find value in it, how can I get in front of them and make sure that they see it, click on it, and take action? So I would say use more than one channel is probably the best way. One more, a quick one that I'll throw in. Dawn talked about retargeting. A great way is to work with retargeting ads and email together. There's a service called Active Campaign, which is great if you're running your emails through Active Campaign. They'll allow you to take that email audience and say, everybody that didn't open my last email, show them an ad across Facebook or Instagram. So now I can grab their attention, and when they click on it, they now go back and they read the information that was in my email. So use multiple channels.
Great.
I'll add here in terms of multiple channels. We love LinkedIn at Jottful. That's a great way for us to reach our audience. And a shout out to Bud's class. We did have a couple of interns from his class who helped us build out this community around our product. So it's a community of writers, SEO experts, graphic designers, and so forth, who help our customers get the content that they need for us to build their websites. And with Bud's interns, we were able to build this out to more than 1,300 people in our community nationwide. And we did that exclusively through LinkedIn messaging.
This is great. Jim?
Yes.
No, I'll let's try to sneak one more in.
Yeah, well, we're actually coming to sort of the end of things, and we got an audience question that I know we answered in comments, but I think other people may have this too. And so just wanted to say that this is a good discussion with a great knowledgeable panel. I've actually been really motivated by this discussion, and it's turned out well from my perspective. Glad to see audience members like it too. But she had to step out. Her name is Kathy Kavasnik, and she had to step out briefly a couple of times. Is there a recording of this? So for everybody who knows, this whole Facebook Live thing you're watching now stays up on our Facebook page. We're making a digital marketing playlist. We also are starting a YouTube channel, and if you want to kind of get threads to all of this, go to thedigitalmarketingworkshop.com. We'll have links on both for both Facebook and YouTube. She's saying, can you do this more often? Well, we actually do run seasonal series. This October, we ran one right up to the Digital Marketing Workshop. Just stay tuned to the Facebook page, and we will be sending things out on that when we start up again in the winter. We're going to close down here after the Digital Marketing Workshop through the holidays and come back in 2021. And so with that, Sufian, I will flee the stage and let you take us out.
Thank you very much, Bud. I want to thank you guys very much for this really awesome discussion. I know I learned a lot and I really enjoyed it. Jim, Don, Martin, we truly appreciate your time, your expertise in this area and sharing this with us. I want to remind the audience about tomorrow's workshop, digital-led, and that is at noon. Please, log in to the Facebook Live, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.